What's happening? Welcome back to RunThrough TV. It is Ben Sheppard here. Okay, today's episode, I love this conversation with CJ Albertson. CJ is a marathon runner signed with Brooks. He is one of the best marathon runners in the United States, currently prepping for Valencia, and he also currently holds the 50-kilometer world record. So much more to delve into with CJ as well in this conversation. His family life, his coaching life. He's a super interesting guy, so I hope you enjoy this here on RunThrough TV.
So I'm CJ Albertson. I'm predominantly a marathon runner for Brooks Running. So I've been competing with them like as a professional since the start of 2020 after the Olympic trials. I also teach and coach at Clovis Community College, like right in the middle of California. So that's a 2-year college. I'm like cross country and track coach, and then teach PE and health classes. And then I'm married and have a baby that just turned 1. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the gist of it.
So that keeps your time as well. Any spare time you've got from work and running, family life important?
Yeah, there's not like a whole lot of spare time, I guess. Yeah.
So where did the journey to where you are now begin? When did you first kind of discover that love for running?
Yeah, in 4th grade. So I was 10 years old, and we had just cross country at our elementary school. Very just like a small like little season, but you have a team and practice after school. And yeah, the first practice I pretty much loved it, and then the first race I won, and I really like to win. Yeah, pretty much like the whole season I just loved like every part of running and training, and just basically running as fast as I could, and just like the feelings of races were always really fun. So yeah, pretty much ever since I was 10 years old I just really liked it, and have stuck with it ever since.
So how did it start then in terms of progressing with distances? Where did you start? Because obviously you're at that marathon distance now, but was it always that, or did you start as a sprinter, or what was the journey up to where you are now?
I was always like a distance runner. In cross country I think we ran a kilometer was 4th grade, and then you move up to the mile in 5th and 6th grade, and then we had like a little 6-week track season, and I'd do like the 1500 and the 800, and those were like the longest events you could do. And then in junior high we run a 3K in cross country, so I moved up to the 3K, and then you could do the 2 mile on the track, or the 3200. And then in high school we have 5Ks, so I ran the 5K, and then again did the 3200 meter and the 1600 meter on the track, and then in college moved up to 8K and 10K. In track I mostly did like the steeplechase and the 5K. I kind of just progressed with the institutions I was a part of, like what you just race there for distances. And then when I graduated, I basically took a year off from competitive running, and then I just kind of out of nowhere I moved back to my hometown, and we have a hometown marathon in Fresno. So I just decided to sign up for the local marathon. I always intend to run fast because I'm competitive, but in training for it, I wasn't like trying to be a professional. I was just like, the millions of people out there that do a marathon. I just wanted to do a marathon. And then it went really well. I ran 2:17, running by myself the whole time. And then I just I really enjoyed it. So I kept training after that. Obviously that was in 2018 was my first one, and so I've been doing marathons since, and then I've done a few 50Ks.
Training for that first marathon then, obviously you had run throughout your whole life and you knew what training was like. Did that feel different training for that distance in terms of the amount of volume, the amount of different sessions you needed to do? Or was that something you were very, very used to throughout kind of like your younger years?
It was very natural, and I don't really know why. I ran more mileage. I think I ran around like 70-80 miles a week in college, and then when I was training for my first marathon I was like 110-ish, 110. But it didn't seem like it was a lot. Well, I mean, because the year that I wasn't competitively running, I was running about 40 miles a week. And then I had a few at like 60, and then I kind of just jumped to 100, 110. But it felt really natural. The training didn't really feel hard. And I mean, I was writing my own training, so I guess like I was comfortable with everything I was doing because I was the one coming up with it. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed the long runs. I think I ended up doing like a 30 or 31 mile run, like my 7th week of the build. And like, it was just, I don't know. It just seemed supernatural. Like, not supernatural, but just very ordinary.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Finishing that first one, then I guess what was, because like you said, millions of people run a marathon, but sometimes finish it and think, oh bloody hell, I'm never doing that again. Like, what was your first feeling then coming over the line for that first one? Was it like, I have to do that again? Like, this is my distance. I've kind of found what I want to do.
Well, I hit the United States Olympic trial qualifying time, so I knew I had to do at least one more.
Okay, yeah.
But, I think it was actually a little bit harder than I expected. Or no, not harder, but I felt a little bit more worse than I expected because I'd run over the marathon distance, a couple times in the buildup. But I just had some like stomach issues, and lots of things can go wrong in the marathon, and nothing really went like majorly wrong. But I mean, you just have like, obviously your body's really tired, but my stomach was just really messed up. Yeah, it felt. I remember feeling very not good for a few hours after my first one, and then that was more like nutrition and fueling. I had like a decent plan, but I realized the gels were a lot easier on my stomach after I figured out the right gels, versus like water mixes and stuff. But yeah, I pretty much right after I finished, I knew I was going to be running more
distances, more marathons, and more 50Ks, mate. So why did you decide to go up to that distance, I guess, to start with? And then when you got the world record for the first time, was that something that you had thought about going for? I know you ran it on the track, wasn't it? That was your first one, I believe, the first 50K world records. Why was that something you decided that you wanted to give a go?
I think part of it was, again, it just kind of naturally happened. Like in that first marathon build, I had done a 50K in practice, and it wasn't super fast, but I think I averaged right around 5:45 per mile pace. And then
I mean, you saying that's not super fast. There's a lot of people watching this now thinking 5:45.
Yeah, so it was natural. And then when I started with Brooks, like after the U.S. Olympic trials, I think because based on some of my training runs, they thought, okay, maybe I would do something with ultras. And so in my contract, basically, there was bonuses for different ultra races that I probably wasn't going to do, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't know where my career was going to go. And so the 50K world record was like one of those things that was in there, just because we just didn't really know like what I was going to do. And so, when you're negotiating contracts, you're just kind of putting things in that kind of incentivize you to also do things. So that was like a big reason. I was like, oh, some of these ultra things are like the 50K is in my contract, and I can like get some bonuses if I can do well on them. And that world record seemed achievable. And then there also wasn't really any races because that was like during like the COVID time. So yeah, that was pretty much how I got into 50Ks. And then my record got broken, and so naturally you reset it if someone breaks it.
and yeah, we're here now after you breaking it, 2:38:43, the new world record, I believe. What was the lead up to that race like, and how did your preparation go, and did you go into it knowing that you were in that sort of shape?
Yeah, I'm running the Valencia Marathon on December 4th, so I was kind of just doing a normal my somewhat normal marathon buildup leading up to it, because it was going to be 8 weeks before the marathon. So I'd done some long runs, and I'd done like some longer long runs. Like I did a 30-mile long run fairly fast. And so I knew I was in like pretty good shape, and probably good enough shape like to get the record. It was just going to kind of be dependent on like how I felt that day, and then kind of like the course, because I didn't really know the course. Well, yeah, I had never been to the course, and it had a little bit more undulation than I thought it was going to. And then it was also like the previous time I had ran it on a track, so like you're going to run the exact distance. But anytime you're on like a course, especially like a looped course, you're always going to end up running a little bit longer than the actual distance it says it is. So I was trying to figure out like what pace do I actually need to run like on my watch, like to set the record. Because if you run what it says it is, you're going to miss it by a couple minutes, because like you're always going to run longer. And the way the course was, there was like, if you took the tangents, you'd be running on dirt, and like you had to run long. And so I was trying to like calculate. It was impossible, but I was trying to calculate, okay, how much longer am I going to be running? And by the first loop, I could kind of figure it out. But that was part of my race strategy, was I just wanted to get out fast and kind of bank time, because I didn't know what pace I actually needed to run. Because like 5:04, 5:05 is different than trying to run exactly 5:09 or whatever the pace was for the record. So I was just like, I'm just going to go out at like a marathon effort, and then build up time, and then I can kind of cruise the last part once I know I'm good.
I know a lot of people.
I was glad I did, because my watch had me like, it was behind like a couple minutes or so. So I was glad I banked that time.
Yeah, no, definitely. You wouldn't have wanted to get to the end, think you've got it, and then not have it. You'd have been, oh my God, like that would have been dreadful. A lot of people, when they're training for marathons, don't ever run that marathon distance. They'll run up to that distance. They'll run 24, 25 mile as a long run a lot of the time. But most people don't run over that distance. Obviously, when you're going for a 50K record, that is important to run close to that distance. Is that something you've always done then? Run over the marathon distance before a race?
Yeah. Like I said before, I did that before my first marathon. I think a lot of it just depends on like time.
Okay.
And if you're running a 3.5 hour marathon, you're not going to, are you really going to do a 4 hour long run? I mean, like people do, but, it's a long time. But for me, if I run like 28 miles, maybe I'm out there for 2.5 hours, and it's not like it's a lot of miles, I guess, but it's like 2.5 hours, like everyone runs 2.5 hours. So yeah, it's mainly just a time thing. I don't like to think of it as like, oh, I can't run farther than a marathon, because there's no like real logic to that. It's just kind of
time on feet versus miles, I guess, isn't it? It's that.
Yeah, I don't really go by time or mile. Like I just kind of run, and then I stop when I'm tired. Most of my long runs don't have a preset, I'm going to stop at this distance. A lot of times it's just like I just run, and then when it's time for me to stop, I stop.
That's a different way of training. I feel like that's a different methodology. Just run till
I have a rough idea. Like I'll know like this is going to be a longer long run. This is going to be a shorter and fast one. But the specific details, you figure it out when you're out there.
So with a 50K race, particularly something that you're going for a world record in, what is the recovery period after that like? And with the fact that you've got Valencia in a few weeks' time as well, like how long did you take off? Did you take any time off? And kind of how did you jump back into training for Valencia?
I drove from San Francisco to Sacramento that day, and then did a easy double shakeout run like after the drive. So pretty much I didn't. I didn't do like a workout soon after, but I just kind of. For me, it was really just like a lot of my long runs. I was a little bit more sore than like a standard long run, but but yeah, I mean, it wasn't really like, it's not like racing where you're sprinting at the end and it's just like a pure all out effort. For me, the 50K it was able to be like, I mean, I was running hard, obviously, and it was tiring, and I was sore, but it wasn't that like 100% peak effort that like really just drains you. Like, like racing Boston, like I'm just way more tired after that than I am basically doing a time trial 50K. So yeah, the recovery wasn't much, like physically. I think mentally I get more tired, and my training since then has been up and down. Not because of like physical effects of the 50K, but just of like overall work and life responsibilities, stress. I don't really know, just like different things that go in between. But yeah, physically it was fine.
How do you balance everything? Because we've already heard, you've got a very busy lifestyle. You teach, you train, you've got your family as well. Like how do you go about balancing everything? Is it a bit like spinning 1,000 plates at once?
It just kind of depends. Like sometimes I can get into like a routine and I feel like I do very well, and just like, I have a decently set schedule, and it just kind of flows like very naturally, and it's I have balance as far as like I have different things I can focus on rather than being just hyper focused on one thing, and stressing over that too much. So sometimes it's really good, but yeah, sometimes, well, it's always different too, because each season is always like different, I guess, as far as like what it looks like to balance. And then like now, like having like a child too, like when he was 3 months and then now he's a year, it's like, well, that's different because he's a totally different person. And then that will happen each year, and then we'll likely have more kids, and so that will look different. So yeah, I don't really know how I would say I balance it, because it's different every time, and every season is different, and even within seasons, like a month will be different. I think like more recently I've been I don't know, I guess just more like realizing different things about my emotions or how I think. I don't know, I've always been like contemplative, but it's just like this has been like a decent reflective season. So like my training has been very average, like since the 50K. I don't know, it's been like weird, but I feel like moving forward, I'll be able to take some good things out of like this past like month or so, just kind of, I don't know, figuring out life, and then the whole balance thing. Like,
yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? And with that in mind, where are the goals? What do you want to achieve, and what are those, I guess, overarching things that you would like to achieve in your career?
Yeah. Well, I guess before I answer that question, is almost like, it's kind of weird because so our state championships is on Saturday for like the cross country team that I coach, and I'm also like the state meet director for that. It's not like a huge meet, but I do run it. But yeah, it's like I feel like I almost haven't even like been thinking about my own running that much. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, like I run, and then like, but then I think sometimes, like when I'm on this, it's like, well, most people like they view me as a runner, like my profession is a runner, like I'm trying to do all these things, and like they really only see me as that. And then it's like I forget, because like in certain moments of my life, it's like I'm not even a runner. I'm just like I'm a coach, and then like I guess I run too. And so when you ask the question, is like in my mind right now, like I'm thinking about like I want our women's team to win a state championship. I want our men's team to be top 10. I'm just like, I've just been like really focused on that. And then I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, like I do have running goals. Like I want to make the Olympic team, obviously, is a huge goal, which I think is achievable, and I'm going to be in the mix to do so. And like I want to, run like 208 or faster, and then eventually 206, and at some point in my life, like enter a race where I feel like I have at least somewhat of a shot at setting the American record. So just things like that. And like, obviously those are really big goals. And I think it's just, yeah, it's kind of funny how like, even when I say those out loud, like they seem like really big, but then at other times, like I'm like not even really concerned with like running. This is like, oh, like, yeah, I'm just thinking about something else. So
yeah, I know. And like you said, that's obviously hugely important to you as well, being a coach and being, going to this meet on the weekend and wanting the teams to do well. It must feel quite special being able to share that with all of those people that you coach as well. That must be, you're going to have a lot of people looking at you thinking and saying that you're an inspiration to them. But at these meets, it must be amazing seeing these people doing incredible things, and they in some way must inspire you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, yeah, it's like good that you say that, because I feel like sometimes people ask me like, oh, like how do I inspire like them or other people, and it's like I don't really know. I just kind of run, but yeah, definitely like with the athletes that I coach and like see every day, yeah, it's definitely like I feel like you're naturally inspired most by the people that you're like closest to and that you see every day, and so like for them, it's like I'm just always around them. I see all their things. I know like things going on in their life, but like they're still like competing and very competitive and like achieving like really high things. And so yeah, I mean, like a lot of my motivation is like coming, or not motivation, inspiration, I guess, is just like coming from things they do. And it's, yeah, like there's been so many long runs where like I've just been so like almost the whole long run, like I've just been like excited from like something they've done, or just like thinking about like improvements people have made. And even like this season, there was a lot of like workouts that I just like didn't want to do, but then like I would like think of like things I would tell them in the middle of workouts when like they were really hard, or like when, like just naturally like people don't, it's like you kind of want to be done with the workout or done running. And then, but like just like seeing them even just like respond to like things I say, or even if I don't say anything, like they just choose to like, pull them, like perform better, like bring themselves up and like have a decent workout. Like those are things that just kind of help me like actually do my own workout. And then when I was like struggling in a workout, being like, no, I'm good, like I can run strong here, even though there's no one near me, no one's even there, I'm just running by myself. It's like I'd still like visualize, like I remember specifically in a few workouts like visualizing like runners that I was coaching, and like when I would tell them like to make moves up to like get with the other people in front of them, or like close gaps in certain places, and then like they would actually do it, and I was like honestly kind of impressed, because I was like, wow, I remember like doing that in college, and like a lot, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's harder than I'm making it sound, but like they would do it, and then I'd be in my workout and being like, I'd like be like playing that in my head, and then I'm like, okay, I can run faster, I can relax and just kind of like move up, even though again I'm running by myself, but like I'm visualizing other people there. So yeah, I really like coaching for that aspect. I feel like it like is like the biggest thing that helps me as a runner. But then also it does get hard, because I do end up having a lot of emotional investment in it. And I'm like pretty obsessive. So like I obsess about running, but then I can also obsess about like team things, and like my focus can get like really like narrow. And so then obviously like that balance can be skewed, and then I'm not putting as much effort or reserving, I guess, as much energy as I need for like my own training. But yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable erring on the side of like having more emotional energy into like the athletes, because I feel like that will always pay back.
Yeah.
And like I feel like, I don't know, I just kind of have this like sense of security in a way that like my own running is gonna be fine. Like I'm gonna be good, or like I don't know, like it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And so I feel free to kind of like be there. I think
it's super refreshing to hear that, to be honest, because running at a high level, at an elite level, like you are obviously, is very often quite a selfish endeavor. And the way it feels like you're treating running is more that you're sharing it with a lot of other people and you're using them to inspire you whilst, you know, cracking on and doing what you need to do as well. So for me, I feel like it's amazing to hear that you've still got that coach's hat on when, you know, you could very easily just be not doing that and just focusing on yourself 100%, which is, I mean, it's pretty cool, to be fair, I think.
Yeah. I feel like my wife would interject and say I could be more like that when it comes to like chores and household things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like then when I'm there, it's like dishes or like just general keeping the house neat and doing things, I'm kind of like, oh, like I'm tired, I need to rest because I got to work out or something. And so I mean, but that's like another area of balance that it's like, yeah, like I'm not gonna be like, you know, constructing a cabin or like building a tree house. You know, like that's just too much physical demand, and I have I do have to run a lot, but obviously I can do other, like I can do something. Like
you can do some washing up. You can do a few things that aren't too demanding. So keeping your coach's hat on then for a second, if somebody was watching this now and they were thinking about taking up running, starting running, they've never even laced a pair of trainers up and they're thinking about getting out there and signing up for a 5K or a 10K eventually, what would be your kind of advice to them?
I mean, like most people say, like to try to be consistent, and then, you know, expect that like you're probably gonna find it weird that people think that running's fun and that like they just like enjoy this and keep doing it, because the first few weeks are gonna be kind of miserable, and like when you're not in good running shape, like I mean, it just hurts. It doesn't feel good. Your breathing just feels out of control all the time. It's just it's hard. And then your legs always hurt. Like everything just hurts.
Finally, you mentioned Valencia. What's the goal in Valencia?
I'm hoping to run like around 208 or, just right around there, and we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see how the pace groups go and like how everything plays out. But I think right around 2.8 is within my range, and I haven't really feel like I haven't really overthought Valencia. I'm just like, I know it's a fast race, just gonna be good groups, so I'm just gonna get in and run, and hopefully the last like 10 miles, like I'm feeling good and I'm closing hard.
A big thank you for checking out this conversation with CJ, and thank you to CJ for spending some time with us here on RunThrough TV. Like I always say, if you haven't checked out some of the previous conversations, do that. You can subscribe on the podcast feed as well, which is called Go On Running. Get it wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe here on RunThrough TV for more amazing conversations in the future. I've got some brilliant ones coming your way, so make sure you are subscribed.